My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. Hello, welcome back to my world of stuff. My name is Paul Mount. Do you know, I find it inconceivable that The Princess Bride, released in 1987, directed by Rob Reiner from the book by William Goldman, wasn't a massive box office hit. It just baffles me. However, I can fully understand how it's become a cult classic in the intervening years, because it is utterly, thoroughly charming. Very postmodern, very tongue-in-cheek, very witty. It plays with all the cliches of swashbuckling films, of dashing princes and swooning princesses and strange people and odd creatures and boo-hiss villains. And it throws it all up in the air and creates something really very special. I saw this film once back in the early 1990s. I think I came into possession of a review copy of the video for a magazine I was writing for at the time, and I watched the film and I knew it had a bit of reputation, and it must admit it sort of went right over my head. My abiding memory of it was a rather stagey fight sequence on what was obviously a set that was supposed to be outdoors. You see all that now, and all that plays into the magic of the film, the slightly surreal and, as I say, slightly postmodern feel of a film, which is taking all these conventions of swashbuckling films and just playing them slightly differently, but quite straight-faced a lot of the time. As I say, it's directed by Rob Reiner. He became fascinated and enthralled by William Goldman's book, which I've never read, but I'm quite tempted to try and track down a copy of it. He wanted to make a film of The Princess Bride. It had been attempted several times before, but it never come off, and he managed to get the film made on a budget of $16 million, which doesn't seem like much. It was probably a decent budget back then. It has a slight whiff of make-do. It sort of looks a bit homespun, and that's part of its charm. The story is set in the fictional kingdom of Florin, where a young farmhand named Wesley, played by Cary Elwes, falls in love with Princess Buttercup, played by Robin Wright, who was at the time a newcomer. They are separated, and she assumes that he's been killed by the dread pirate Roberts. And she eventually becomes betrothed to the boo-hiss baddie, Prince Humperdinck. Before they can get married, however, she's kidnapped by 3 ne'er-do-wells, including Inigo Montoya. They are fleeing Florin, being pursued by another ship, which is piloted by a mysterious black-clad masked character. He eventually, it transpires, is Wesley, who was a captive of the dread pirate Roberts and became the dread pirate Roberts. That, as it transpires, is a name which is passed down. When a dread pirate Roberts is killed, it's passed on to the person who's killed him, and so on. And eventually, the loving couple are reunited, but then they're torn apart again, where Prince Humperdinck separates them. He thinks he's got Wesley out of the way and proceeds to prepare his marriage to Princess Buttercup. All the while, however, Wesley's been incapacitated, and the 3 kidnappers, who are now good guys, try to get him back on his feet to try and thwart the wedding. Much swashbuckling ensues. It's just great fun. This, as I said, it's sort of postmodern take on all those films that we remember, the original adventures of Robin Hood. It's got a bit of Prisoner of Zenda in there. It's got a bit of Monty Python in some of the humour. There are scenes with Billy Crystal and Carol Kane, which are largely improvised, but they're very much in the style of that sort of quirky period stuff that Terry Gilliam used to do in things like Life of Brian, Holy Grail. It's got that feel to it. It's not quite as down and dirty and gritty, but it's got that slightly sort of anachronistic dialogue, certainly in those particular scenes. It's got a feeling of Ray Harryhausen films, the things like the Sinbad film. It hasn't got the stop-motion animation that Harryhausen specialised in, but the story has that freewheeling, swashbuckling feel to it. Lots of sword fights and strange creatures in the forest, which are very charmingly done. And it reminds me of things like Jack the Giant Killer, which wasn't a Harryhausen film, which was a sort of monster film, which stayed in my head all those years later. I'm not talking about the more recent one that was done 10, 15 years ago. This is the original Jack the Giant Killer from the 1960s. It's a great film. It's such a feel-good film. And for a miserable Friday afternoon, it was just what the doctor ordered. I really enjoyed watching this film. And I'm really glad I watched it again. I've been meaning to watch it since somebody recommended it a year and a half ago on this channel. And I kept putting it off and putting it off. And I thought, well, let's watch this. But it weaved its spell on me this time. It really caught me. Because it is so unusual, and because I think we don't get films like this made this way anymore. It's all CGI and bloated budgets and OTT special effects and things. And this just feels very simplistic in a way. The way it was made, the story is the classic goodies versus baddies love story that today is considered rather cynically as a bit old hat and a bit problematic. To hell with that. It's just great fun. Mandy Patinkin is superb as Inigo Montoya. The film's iconic character, really. The one that everybody quotes and everybody remembers. There are some really good fight scenes and good stunts. It was all filmed in the UK as well, which I hadn't realised, in various locations up north and in Ireland. It's got atmosphere, it oozes atmosphere, oozes charm. It's just great, great fun. I'm really glad I watched it again. And I'm so surprised how much I enjoyed it that I'm almost finding it difficult to explain how much I enjoyed it. But it just completely captivated me for 95, 100 minutes. It just took me into this fantasy world that was believable because it was practical. Because now you watch a special effects film and you're aware of the CGI. You're aware of the technology that goes into films these days. But here you're on these stagey sets, you're on these locations, and you're there, and it's immersive in a way that so many modern films aren't. Absolutely loved it. Really, really great film. And I'm going to watch this again fairly soon, I think, because I had such a good time with it. And thank you very much to whoever it was who suggested it a couple of years ago. If you're still watching, leave a comment down below. Great film. Really, one of the classics, one of the underrated classics. And I'm pleased that it has built up such a reputation over the years, and it is now regarded as one of the great films of its type. It deserves to be. It's a cult classic that I'm glad is a cult classic in a way. I think perhaps its reputation would have been diminished if it had been a massive blockbuster, because I think the passage of time might have diminished it slightly. But I think the fact that it's had this cult audience over the years who appreciate it unapologetically and unironically. But I think you can watch it and take it for what it is, which is just great fun. It's an old school, old style action-adventure film, full of wit and charm. It's good-natured, it's affectionate, absolutely brilliant. Princess Bride, I'm going to give it a big chunky 9 out of 10. Why not 10? I don't know. But I think 9 seems like a really good score for one of the great films. One of the great films of the 80s, which sailed under the radar at the time. And I'm so glad it's got a cult following, because I feel I'm part of that cult now. Because I think if you mention The Princess Bride to a lot of people, they might have vaguely heard of it. They might have seen it and forgotten it. But I think people who love it really love it. And I think I've joined that crew. Princess Bride. Terrific fun. If you've seen The Princess Bride, hey, leave a comment down below. Tell me what you thought of it. Tell me what you thought of this video as well, which would be quite nice. Like and subscribe. Press that button there. Leave a comment down below if you like the video. Thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this video. I will see you soon. Until I do, keep taking the stuff.